Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our CineCoPro conference. So I think that we will kick off this pitching session and presentation session right away. So Maria, tell us, who are the first ones to pitch?
Actually, before I will tell that, I will say that we are going to see 9 projects of completely different genres. The flow of the pitch will be, okay, it's a presentation. So if we say pitch, it doesn't mean that there is a jury. You are our great audience of CineCoPro conference, our jury, meaning that each project is going to have 7 minutes for their presentation. After that, we'll be asking them questions. And also, we are going to have a flow of Canadian, German, Canadian, German, Canadian, German projects. So we made it on purpose so that you're not only watching what you're interested in and leaving, so please stay put. We are watching you from here. So without further ado, we're going to sit, I guess, and then I'm going to introduce you to the first one. Let's first see the slide for the first project. Yes, we're there. And it's gonna be Astra's journey. We're starting with the Canadian project. It's gonna be presented by the producer-director, Elizabeta Lazebnik. She is based in Toronto. She's award-winning Canadian-Latvian neurodivergent filmmaker, and her experience is in producing, writing, and directing. Also, her films were screened worldwide and many times at TIFF. Elizabeta, good luck. First up, floor is yours.
Oh my gosh. Hi, everyone. Okay, so what's the connection between a Soviet military base in Eastern Germany and Jean-Claude Van Damme? I think it's a good question. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Lazebnik, and I'm a director and producer from Toronto. And I'd like to tell you a bit about my in-development dramatic feature project, Astra. So I was growing up in Soviet Latvia, so back in time it was Soviet Union. And we had very limited access to the Western media. One day, my brother and I, we got a hold of a VHS copy, which is kind of like finding a treasure, of Bloodsport. I don't know how many of you watched it. Woo! Okay, thank you. Starring the one and only JCVD, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and for some reason, I became like obsessed with it. Not just watching it, I spent hours and hours learning to mimic all his moves. Like I was a bit of a weird kid. So Astra is coming-of-age story, partially inspired by my own experiences of immigrating across various countries with my family when I was a teenager back in the 90s. Oh my gosh, totally should keep moving forward. That's me. That's what I could find online of a Soviet base camp in Eastern Germany. Okay, so the film starts in 1991 as Astra, age 14, is growing up at a Soviet military base camp in Eastern Germany where her father serves as an officer. Like me, Astra was also mini Van Damme in the making. She set up her own makeshift training area right on a base camp next to the soldiers' barracks and was mimicking every move she saw in the movie, including, the splits that he did between the 2 chairs. I was doing all of that, and Astra is doing all of that. So her dedication knows no bounds. It may not have been an ideal childhood environment, as you can imagine, but to Astra, who sees the world through her own peculiar lens, it was home and a place of happiness and innocence. She sometimes even would find solace in lying down on her back, closing her eyes, and just feeling the world exist around her. Okay. One day, the Russian government gave the families on the base 24 hours to pack and return to Russia. Astra struggles to understand why is she being pulled away from her childhood home as the family boards crowded train the next day. Things turned even more chaotic when the train unexpectedly stops in the middle of nowhere. They are told that there isn't enough money to get them to their destination. And they're forced off the train, along with the other families, in a vast open field surrounded by forest, with only a few tents. That's the field. So this is a story that I've been working on for years, and at one point in my research, I learned about this kind of thing actually happening, that the Soviet army, basically, this is how it would treat its own people. They were bankrupt at this point, and they would just leave their own soldiers back in the open field and just abandoning them there. So in the film, the family decides to try to make the journey back to Latvia, their homeland. I remember growing up in Latvia and struggling to make friends. I couldn't possibly have understood back then what it meant. Let's go back to Latvia. But decades later, I would be diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. This is one of the first time I'm actually disclosing this. So I would often retreat to my own imagination, which would be something pretty out there. And it was around this time that Jean-Claude Van Damme got replaced by Michael Jackson. Maybe in the movie it will be Janet Jackson, just because of Michael Jackson's history, but regardless, at this time he was my complete hero. I was blown away again by his moves. Like, I had a thing for, obviously, learning moves. And yes, so now 15 years old, Astra, like me, struggles to make friends in high school. And she ends up with her imaginary friend who resembles the famous pop star. Okay. She learns all of his dance moves, and he becomes her imaginary friend, and they practice their routine together and have conversations. Astra's imagination was developing into something quite vivid and extraordinary, and I want to represent this literally as visual elements that will grow more bizarre as the story progresses. Astra's father was not happy in Latvia, as now he was unemployed, and eventually he gets involved in the black market selling bootlegs. So it is here that Astra comes to see her parents as flawed human beings. After her father gets in trouble with local criminals, they're forced to move away once again, this time to Montreal, Canada. Coming to Montreal as a teenager was a mind-blowing experience. I remember walking into a huge grocery store with my family, and it was like walking into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Like, everything was so vibrant and saturated, and this will be reflected in the tone and the style of the film when we reach Montreal. Actually, I'm going to go back. So as you can see, this is examples still from my previous work, and the feel and the tone and a touch of surrealism is important to me. So, hold on, I'm still here. Okay. So Montreal is also a magical world to Astra. At 16, she navigates an increasingly baffling complex social structure in high school while children smoke in the school cafeteria. I don't know if any of you were in high school in Montreal in the 90s, but it's true. You would go to, and there was just like a cloud of smoke over kids smoking age 13. So that was very interesting. So adapting to this new environment was also overwhelming, and occasionally Astra finds solace by lying down in the middle of the school and closing her eyes, which also doesn't help her popularity. Like, I would do this back then. I didn't know it was called not being able to regulate yourself, so now I know. But one day, she opens her eyes and sees another girl from her class laying down beside her. Also a true story. And this begins Astra's exploration into love and romance, something that she must keep a secret from her family. And all this unfolding with Quebec referendum looming. So this project is still in development, and I'm looking for German and Quebecois producers to come on board to help secure funding. We've estimated the budget as approximately around $2.8 million. Obviously, the story is very personal to me. Astra is a bit like Amelie meets Persepolis with a bit of Holy Mountain, if any of you have seen that movie. So please come and talk to me about Astra and Astra's journey, and perhaps we can be on this journey together. Thank you.
So So, Elisabetta, thank you so much for presenting your project. We would love to know, or I think everyone in the room would love to know, like, what stage is your project in, and what are you looking for here, or who would you like to meet a little better?
Absolutely. The project is currently, it's still early development, so I have a treatment, and I kind of almost have a first draft. I'm actually very happy that I'm here because I want to do more research in Germany. So, but yes, so this is what I have right now, and I also am a producer, and I'm looking for German and Quebecois producers. So I'm hoping to definitely find some German partners, and I know we also have a number of representatives from Canada, from Quebec. So that would love to chat with them as well.
Is there anything else that you would like to specify a little more about your project? Because you clarified it as a drama. Mm-hmm. So is there, I mean, it's certainly a very personal story as well. So maybe you can clarify that a little more and a bit more into depth, like your vision about the project.
Absolutely. So the project, I definitely, I love Amelie, and I wanted to be from her perspective. And because she's also neurodivergent autistic, so I want that to be authentically reflected. So at some points, her imagination, I actually want to show it on screen. I also, for example, I love Guy Madden, and so I like that style as well. So it's not going to be a traditional drama, maybe a little bit, yeah, with touch of surrealism. And I'm thinking every period also would have its own feel. Yeah, I think it's kind of going to be an imaginative journey from a very unique perspective, and on she's going through historical events, so I think that's interesting, but it's presented through a unique way. Well, I'm hoping.
Well, it definitely sounds like that. Maria, do you have another question?
I only, you stole my second question, so, well, not stole, but no, absolutely, I can only echo that it's very important what you said about representation. We hear here and see here multiple very important female-driven things in this story. It's really authentic from your perspective, so please take a note. And we are going to say thank you so much and for your bravery to open up the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys.
Okay, so just as it was announced, after Canadian project, there is going to be German projects. So, based in Berlin, company Band & Film, represented by Britta Strampe and Laura Klippel, who are coming up on stage, are going to present The Nose. And I'm quickly going to also introduce them, because they are actually quite an up-and-coming producers from Germany. They received the VGF Producer Prize, and also they are just fresh up with their first feature that was called The Ordinaries, but they are going to also talk about that. And wait a sec.
Which will premiered at FILMFEST München and went to South by Southwest and did very, very well, and you won an award, and Sophie won a few awards, so thank you so much for trusting us with that film again.
I feel like the pressure is on already. Yeah, hi, I'm Britta, Laura.
Hi.
Happy to be here. So, Bandenfilm is our company name, and the word Bande is kind of like a traditional term in Germany for the gang. So that kind of expresses the way we want to work with people on eye level with all kind of departments. And Sophie, the director of this feature, which we're going to present to you, Laura and I, and together with many other great head of departments, met at film school in Babelsberg, so up and coming. We did our shorts there together, and our first feature, which was just named The Ordinaries. Yeah, and we're really happy to come back because we got awarded, and our great journey of the first film started there, so it's a really good place to be back with our second feature with Sophie.
Yes, so let's talk about the project, The Nose. What's the setting? So it's a beauty pageant. You know, Miss Universe is going to be awarded. You know, all the choreographies, women with long legs, and answering all the important questions of the society and so on, you know. And that's the moment where two men storm on the stage, they have guns, and they take the missus and the audience hostage. And what they demand is to speak the president, because, you know, it's a beauty contest, of course the president isn't too far away. And after a long back and forth, finally they can speak to the president. And it turns out the two men are actually brothers. They are Kai and Eden. And Kai wants to give back the responsibility that was given to him years ago when he was a young soldier. And he can no longer stand the burden he has on his shoulders, because there's so much blood on his hand for a war that wasn't his. He was fighting, and he wants to give it back to the president. But the president, of course, you know, he tries to talk his way out of it. You know, it wasn't my fault, it wasn't my responsibility, I'm so sorry, but you know. And that's when Kai really snaps. So he storms to the president and rips off his nose. And then he stands there, like having literally the nose of the president in his fist, and therefore new power, because now he not only demands to end the war, but to have world peace. And then the audience is like, what the fuck just happened? Did he rip off the nose of the president? You cannot steal the nose of the president. I mean, that never happened before. And on the floor, there's the president, like hiding, ashamed, his ripped off nose, and that's when everything falls apart. And when I say everything, I mean like the whole world is in total chaos. World leaders outside, they gather together and trying to find a solution, because they want to fake world peace instead of actually talking about peace. And they create little clips when you can see weapon factories being shut down and everything. But on the other side, there's a huge movement going on. There are protesters on the street fighting for peace. There are social media influencers making whole campaigns, but also copycats trying to steal other noses from leaders. And you know, that's when the huge fear goes around, because of course all the world leaders now are really afraid of losing their nose, and they all start to wear nose protection. But while you have all this chaos outside, inside it starts to get really familiar, because actually the misses, they try to understand their hostage takers, Aiden and Kai, and they even teach them their choreographies, you know, like little kick and you know what you have to do. And that's what the whole global talks about, what's the worth of a president's nose, and why is it so much more absurd to steal a nose than actually to talk about world peace.
So one might think utopian stories are cheesy and the demand for world peace is left to the Miss Universe, old hippies or children. But this is not for us. Instead of showing the abysses of society, we like to dream big. So especially in times like this is not ignorant, this is taken seriously 100%, reflecting the world, what's going on in a nutshell. So, because if we are not able to play it, how shall we ever perceive it? So we have a treatment ready to share with you, and we received funding by the German Federal Film Board for script development. We plan to have a first draft ready by the end of the year and want to shoot in 2027. We aim for an international cast and want to shoot the film in English language. And as a co-production, we could imagine a trilateral co-production with another European partner and Canada in order to achieve our estimated budget. Yes, and what are we looking for? The Nose is a social satire. It's tragicomic, dramatic, and ironic funny at the same time, but always warmly told, taking every single character serious. So in the same sense, we are looking for nice people to work with who share our vision and our standards of working on eye level. The Nose isn't set in any specific location. It has no territorial relevance in that sense, but has a North American look and feel. So especially with Sophie's project in particular, who likes to create the worlds of her own, we want to enforce our elaborated style of production, which is usually heavy on production design, costume design, and maybe also visual effects. And in order to give you an impression from our work, we want to share with you the fake trailer of our first feature, The Ordinaries, by Sophie Limbaum.
Yeah, please clip up.
This spring, coming to your cinema, comes a story about a main character who actually isn't a main character but a side character trying to become a main character. But maybe he is even something completely different. Whatever. A girl in a fantastic world, not looking for love in a big city, but her absent father, finding out the shocking truth about. Go to the movies and watch The Ordinaries. Or stay at home and stream something else. It's more comfortable there anyways.
So in case you are still taking us seriously, you can check out the real trailer on our website. And this is our contact information, and we are really looking forward to talking to you to the next days, and especially the one-to-one meetings to maybe find a future collaboration.
Thank you.
Well, you two basically covered all of my questions, but I do have one.
Thank you.
I do have one, because it is very much, the genre you're aiming for is tragic comedy. And I would say that's probably Sophie's perfect genre. But maybe you can tell them, I think we got a sense of her humor and her style, but again, maybe you can put it a little more precisely, what differentiates the new movie from this one, with her sort of like sense of humor for the people who might not have seen The Ordinaries or her short films out of film school.
Something you should really keep up on doing. No. Well, I would say, The Ordinary is kind of like in that one we really created a world of our own. So it's really a different, it has no attachment to any kind of realistic world. This is different in the film. But I think which is one of the main things which Sophie is really strong on is really like the warm and really detailed love to her protagonist in the feature. So it's always, I think, pointing out little situational comic about characters and letting them fail or fall down and then getting up with them again, standing up again with all the love, which makes it so much human, even if we have a really playful environment and a very strong premise. But this is really important for us to really adapt to it, take it for 100% and move on forward from there. That's kind of what we would say.
And I will maybe follow up more on the producer's side, since you're two producers. You said that you're looking for partners and potential trilateral co-production. What do you enjoy in co-producing, or potentially what kind of style of producing you would envision? Like, what kind of people should contact you with which kind of drive? Do you have any particular profile?
Is it on? Probably people who are as playful as we are, I guess, and have the same vision. I think it's most important for us to talk about the same stuff, being on eye level, and it's all about communication at the end. But also, Sophie is so playful with all the stuff she does. It's the same for us, because we think that's the most fun of doing a film production, just letting your mind flow around. So if you're really up for an adventure, that would be fun.
So there was this one Austrian on the raft who said, German has no humor.
Yeah,
we do not agree.
You prove him wrong.
We try to.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Thank you. Give them, please, a round of applause. And yeah, we're back to Toronto-based producer again. This time it's going to be Ryan Keller. He's representing the company Other Animal Entertainment, and the project is called Last Moon. Let's find out, where is the slide? Well, okay.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Perfect.
But first let me just quickly ask, maybe you'll see. Oh, maybe you can click it. Yeah, if you could. Yes, well, yes, thank you so much. I'm going to quickly introduce you and then I'll give you the round. So Ryan is also not only a producer, but he is an entertainment lawyer with extensive experience in production, finance, and business affairs. Ryan has previously produced and released 2 award-winning feature films. One of them is Poor Agnes. It won Best Canadian Feature at Fantasia. Also, his latest feature, Noble and the Kid, is scheduled to be released in late 2024. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and hello, everybody. Yes, I'm Ryan. I'm based out of Toronto, and I'm with the company Other Animal Entertainment. So we produce feature films, primarily with a genre bend. We say our mantra is that we're really looking for character drama dressed up in genre clothes, and that's worked well for us. So the film that I'm going to talk to you about today is called Last Moon, from writer-director Brandon Cox. And this is a horror film. It's in the style of something I would say like The Witch by Robert Eggers. And it follows a family of settlers in the 18th century who are in the Canadian wilderness, setting up their life. And of course, they're visited by something supernatural. So in this film, the supernatural element is actually a werewolf. And I think Brandon has done a wonderful job of putting his own spin on the werewolf genre. So without giving too much away, I'll say it's not what you expect. And the themes of the film it's really about sort of revenge and redemption. And within the family, we learn that the father has done some unsavory things in the past that are now coming back to revisit him. So in a way, he sort of brought this curse onto the family that he's now trying to protect from with his young daughter. So Brandon's just put together some of the log lines and some of the questions that he wants to play with in the film. We're fairly far along with this. We have a strong script. I would say where he's in the process of polishing that into a shooting script. We have managed to raise about 600,000 euros with a regional funder that we've worked with before out of Northern Ontario, the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund. It's sort of personal to me. I grew up in Thunder Bay, which is about 1,500 kilometers north of Toronto. If anybody hasn't been to Canada, the province of Ontario is roughly 3 times the size of Germany. So you can spend a lot of time in Ontario. So I've tried to champion these films that take place in the region and have a slightly different point of view. And I think what's really interesting about this project is because we're dealing with the settlers in the 18th century, there has been several waves of German immigration, my family included, coming back a few hundred years. And I think that presents a really interesting opportunity for a co-production of bringing in a German producer, casting some German actors, ideally with a bit of marquee talent, to play some of the roles in the settler family. Our money for this regional fund doesn't travel, so it does have to be shot in Northern Ontario. But I think with some cast, with a really interesting point of view of what the German piece would look like and maybe some post-production, I think this is a really strong opportunity for a co-production that could be ready to go to camera as early as the fall. I suspect if it was a co-production, it would probably be a 2025 shoot. So as a co-production, I see the budget about $1 million, maybe 1.1 million euros. So we'd be looking for a partner, ideally someone who has a little bit of experience. I've done some co-pros myself. I think they're very manageable. The last team talked about seeing eye to eye. I couldn't agree more. I think it's very much about the relationship, and that takes a bit of time. So very interested in talking to anybody who might be interested in putting that together, helping us raise the other 30–40% of the financing. I'll be here tomorrow and Thursday. Would love to chat with you. And I guess I would also plug any of the other projects that could potentially work as co-pros. We're always looking to build those relationships. Yeah, I think that's all. I was going to say.
Wonderful, thank you.
Well, I would be interested a bit more in the style of the movie that you're envisioning, because I mean, horror has been on the radar so much,
Yes.
and it changed so much with regard to elevated horror as well.
Yes.
So tell us a little more about your vision of the movie.
I'd love to. In fact, I saved some slides for the Q&A. So
Smart.
as Brandon would describe this, the next installment in prestige horror. It's not a schlock film. It's very much a mood film. I mean, other tone comparators would be something like, say, The Ritual, where it builds. It's very much a director's piece. Brandon's background, he does a lot of commercial work. He's very big on creating space. Within Other Animal, my partner Jeff, Emmy Award-winning composer and sound designer, he always says, let's leave room for sound and really sort of make it a theatrical experience. For me, as a producer, I guess the couple of the things that are really important about this is I do want to make theatrical films. We like that. We always finish our films and, 7-1 DCP. We just try to find the money to do that. But also staying away from some of the digital conventions that I don't think do a lot of good in a creature film. So we've actually talked to a prosthetics designer who some of you who follow genre might know, a man named Paul Jones, of actually building a physical werewolf. So Brandon just pulled a couple of images of sort of the style of creature, and obviously you're never going to see it this well in the movie. It's all dark in that. But yeah, we would have a physical werewolf and spoiler, one of the parents ends up being the werewolf. So you've got some really fun stuff between the child and the parent that's transforming and all of that good stuff.
I'm going to ask you, just beautifully showed us the visuals, but I think the big part of creating the horror and suspense is also sound and music. Are you open for any kind of creative positions that could come from Europe or, let's say, Germany?
I would love that, yeah. I was talking to a few people the other day. I think director of photography is a big one. I mean, we have good production designers we work with, but I think it really comes with where the team is strong. Like, our team is very strong on audio post. We have, say, some visual effects relationships. Even though we're making a physical werewolf, I think it's important. Like you see in some of the scenes, the sky replacements and things that just sort of subtly elevate the world. So, yeah, we would definitely want, wherever that particular producer or production company is strong, you know, part of that conversation would be like, how do you like to work? What can you bring? Like, we would be open to doing, you know, some of the post in Germany, things like that.
How about music composer?
Absolutely, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
I was
love
hinting
to
to that.
I would love to work. I would love to work with a German composer. So please, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks for having me.
We're so far having this interesting Toronto-Berlin thing. So next up is Sarah Lisa Foam, and she's going to present a project that's called At Sea. I think now we'll be asking our producers, and in this case it's a producer-director, to switch on their own slide. I think there is something nice in this ritual of them putting up, yes, oh, that's the end. There was one more.
It's the end.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted.
Yes, thank you so much, Sarah Lisa. Sarah Lisa, as I said, she is a producer and director, also an author, an established actress. Her company called Poison is based in Berlin, and also she produced the film with the German star Franz Rogowski, which was called Fickefuchs, right? Did I pronounce it right? Yes. Great. It actually was playing here at Munich Film Festival in 2017. Her feature debut as a director, called The Silent Forest, premiered at Berlinale, and it was shortlisted for the German Film Award in 2023. Floor is yours.
And Sarah Lisa had a world premiere at the festival yesterday, right? 2 days ago. I lost track of time. But it did happen and it was beautiful. Thank you so much for coming back to Munich.
Again. Actually, I have a 10-year-long, super strong partnership with the FILMFEST Munich. I'm very thankful for that. Yes, hi. Oh, that's so good. It's dark down there. I don't see you. It's amazing. I'm the director and producer of At Sea, and I'm searching for a producer who could do the pitches for me in the future. So, but I start. Yes, as a director, I just finished my last feature film. It was a TV film. We have a second screening tomorrow, so if anybody wants to come. It's called At the End of Truth. And my company is Berlin-based, as you said before. We are really doing mostly director-driven projects that we love. Could be documentaries, could be fiction. It's just about what we think has to be in the world. And our newest baby is At Sea. It's a utopian, dystopic drama, and it tells the story of Jada. Jada is 17 years old. She lives in the near future, and she grew up on a state in the ocean. It's an artificial island, and it is created by her father, a tech entrepreneur. I think we all know these fantasies of Elon Musk on going on Mars when the world will be in chaos, or when climate is going down. So, like, her father is one of these super rich guys who tries to have this perfect escape, this state founded more or less by a company. And Jada lives there, very protected, eating like green smoothies all the time, which should be super healthy, and she's educated really well, but she has no connection to the real world as we know it. So she decides, when she figures out her father is lying to her, she decides to go to the mainland. And she doesn't tell him. It's really taking a boat secretly, rowing to the mainland in the night. And as she gets there, she finds a world in chaos, like all the things we are afraid of now. Like the climate went down, people are camping in the parks, money is not valuable anymore. So this is really a shocking status of the world at some point. But on the other hand, Jada finds her mother. Her father told her that her mother is dead. She finds her, and her mother doesn't have a problem with chaos. On the contrary. And this is how Jada figures out that there's also hope in destruction. And maybe this is exactly what we need now, because we are figuring a lot of destruction at the moment. We are in a super early stage. We got treatment funding from the German federal funding, so we just have 3 pages at the moment. So this is really early, but we got an amazing script consultant attached. It's Roderick Warich. He wrote The Trouble with Being Born by Sandra Wollner, for example. So we just started working on the treatment. We think we will need, it's not really possible to say, but we think we will need like 5.5 million because it's set in the near future. You have to build this island somehow, and we already got one partner attached. It's Cat Pigs from Zurich. They also loved the book. I will tell you more about the book soon. And they are, for example, famous for The Theory of Everything, which premiered last year in competition in Venice. And we think the best thing that could happen to this film is a trilateral cooperation, a co-production with Canada. And why so? On the one hand, Canada, we think, is a big tech center. So maybe you know, in Germany, we are a bit behind when it comes to, now you're here, when it comes to the internet or being fast on technology or just paying with your phone. So to find out more about the near future, we think we need another country to come in. And also to help us, we think there might be a company to help us with the visual realization of the island. And on the other hand, we need a real island. So Canada has a big connection to the ocean, and there are oil rigs, and this is exactly what we are searching for. So maybe there is the perfect shooting location in Canada. One thing I wanted to tell you, I told you before, is about the book this film is based on. It was published in 2022, and it's written by Theresia Enzensberger. She got amazing reviews for the book, and I think she's a crucial voice of young, new German literature. So we're really happy that we got the rights, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to have one practical question. So the book is probably German, like written in German, right? Which kind of language do you envision in your film?
Depends on where we are shooting. So we could also imagine doing it in English. I think we are pretty early in the process, and if there might be a perfect partner and shooting locations abroad, we can. It's possible to do it in all Western countries because we have the same idea of how to protect our security and our wealth against everybody else. So
I see it might be a benefit of stepping in early. You can affect such major decisions as the language of the film.
I mean, I'm very happy that you picked that book because I love it. And Theresia Enzensberger is really a young voice that is making her way into the entire international world of literature. Tell us a little more about the unique dystopia that this book actually creates, because there are quite a few dystopias and utopias out there, especially right now, because our world feels so vulnerable. But what makes this story particularly interesting?
I think what is great about the book, actually, and we don't know at the moment how to put it into a film, is that she's telling many different stories of utopias which appeared during the last hundreds of years. So there are many stories of utopias that
didn't go well. But I think the most intriguing thing about this book and also the film is that she doesn't see all the things we're talking about as something bad. And this is something our protagonist has to learn. Like, there's something good when capitalism isn't working anymore like it does right now. There's something good in stepping back and not only seeing their own wealth growing. And I think this is the most intriguing thing. Like, can there be something better behind chaos?
Thank you so much, Sarah-Lisa. Thank you so much for presenting.
Thank you. I promise you this was not intentional, but again, back to Toronto. So next up is Mark Serper-Francoeur. Please come on stage and click your own slide, while I'll be introducing you. Mark is presenting the company called Lost Time Media, and the project is called The Golden Door. Mark is a Zorian-Canadian documentary filmmaker. He is co-founder of the company together with Rubinder Upal, and they have produced a wide range of linear and interactive documentaries. They were screened at Hot Docs, at Sheffield, at Doc NYC, and also their another production called No Visible Trauma was also screened here in München at DocFest. The floor is yours.
Thanks very much. So as mentioned, I'm one half of Lost Time Media along with Rubinder Uppal. The film we're talking about today, I'm producing, he's directing. We've made films for the CBC in Canada in co-production with ITVS in the US. We have a few films in development, a couple more in post, including one in Palestine, Free Palestine. The Golden Door is a meditative, archival-based essay film that reveals profound truths about the contradictory and difficult relationship the United States has always had with immigrants. On its surface, the U.S. likes to present itself as a safe haven for immigrants, especially in the wake of the Holocaust. But the reality is much more complicated, of course. As an old immigrant saying goes, America beckons, but Americans repel. Ever since it confined citizenship to free white persons in 1790, the immigration policies of the United States have been tarnished by racism and nativism, with the acceptance and desirability of certain races and ethnic groups shifting dramatically over time. The film is structured as a series of vignettes that travel across time and around the country, revealing some of these often forgotten and often intentionally buried histories of xenophobia and white supremacy that go back to the very foundation of the country. At Hot Docs this year, we presented a 20-minute work in progress centered on Angel Island, a former immigrant detention center near San Francisco that is now a lovely state park and tourist attraction. We'll watch a short intro now to a segment that takes us to New York and focuses on the Italian experience. If we could play the video.
March 5th, 1882, The New York Times. Our Future Citizens. An editorial by an unknown author.
A political problem of great importance to the country is being constantly solved in this community. The task is to assimilate a very degraded and ignorant population with the intelligent and self-governing citizens who ought to govern such a city as this. There has never been, since New York was founded, so low and ignorant a class among the immigrants who poured in here as the Southern Italians who have been crowding our docks during the past year. They come from the poorest provinces south of Naples, provinces whose principal export to foreign countries is rags, and who are so poor themselves that it seems incredible they could have reached here by their own means. There is often a grave suspicion that they have been forwarded to this port by Italian municipalities, who were glad to get rid of them. These peasants, both men and women, immediately on their arrival here, enter on the lowest pursuits of a great city. They become the scavengers of our streets. Their children grow up in filthy cellars, packed with rags and bones, or in crowded attics where many families lodge together, and then are sent out into the streets to make money by the street trades. The parents are utterly indifferent to their welfare and have not the slightest interest in their education. The children spend the days in the streets, nominally collecting refuse, blackening boots, or performing other street occupations, but, in fact, growing up as vagrants and idlers. They know nothing of our language and are brought under no influences which could prepare them to be American citizens. They seem to be, on the whole, an honest class, but they are continually brought before the courts for fighting, violence, and attempts at murder, crimes which arise from the crowded way in which they live and the jealousies and quarrels that would naturally arise from such a promiscuous mode of life. The children, as they grow up, will naturally and inevitably form the criminal class of this city, unless they are reached by the best American influences.
So part of this segment will go on to look at the lynchings of 11 Italian immigrants in New Orleans in 1891 by a mob including some of the richest and most powerful people in the city. This was actually the largest single mass lynching in American history and eventually led to the establishment of Columbus Day, which we see at the end of the video there, as a national holiday in order to quell the outrage from Italian Americans. So as you can see, our intent is to juxtapose poetic contemporary observational sequences with archival imagery and the subversive use of historic records as narration, trying to compress the distance between past and present and exposing how these sites of hidden trauma still echo with these painful legacies of exclusion. So we're researching numerous story threads, including a 1907 race riot that drove a community of hundreds of South Asians, primarily Punjabis, into Canada near Vancouver, conflicting Supreme Court rulings in the 1920s that repeatedly narrowed the qualifications for whiteness, specifically to exclude East and South Asians, racist laws that inspired the Nazis, and the mass expulsions of Mexican Americans in the early 1950s. With the hateful rhetoric of Trump, opposing voices often say things like, oh, well, that's not who we are as Americans. But the truth is that xenophobia and racism are as American as apple pie, going right back to the 1750s when Benjamin Franklin was losing sleep about the swarthy, which is to say dark-skinned German immigrants, who he thought to be intellectually inferior. In fact, Franklin often bemoaned German immigrants for refusing to learn English and assimilate. He believed they would never adopt our language, quote, or customs any more than they can acquire our complexion. Good Lord. Ironically, Germans are now the largest single group in the US by ethnic origin. As Americans have consistently shunned almost all immigrants at one time or another, the Golden Door compels audiences to reflect on their own place in this story, illuminating blind spots in the debates about immigration that continue to rage around the world, including, of course, in this country. In terms of some comparables, we draw inspiration from other essay and archival films, I'm Not Your Negro, Riotsville, USA. We are currently in late development with financing from the Netflix-funded Hot Docs Incubator, and the early stages of research was supported by Firelight Media's Spark Fund. Rubinder was also a participant in this year's Doc Toolbox program at EFM with the project. We're starting to explore our options for production financing, both in Canada and the US, with a budget of roughly €580,000. We're keen to explore the possibilities of co-production, especially with Germany, Italy, France, and Ireland identified as strong contenders. I'd love to discuss the project with anyone who thinks it could be a good fit for their slate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I guess it's one of the obvious questions about archival and archival rights. Do you have any thoughts about what kind of portion would it be in the film, and what would be also a possibility for the partners, maybe partnering with particular archive sources or anyone who had experience producing archival docs?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think we're imagining somewhere in the range of 2/3 of the film being archival, but tough to say, and it may vary also depending on the chapter. Obviously, as we move forward in time, there's more video available, which I think is obviously more dynamic. A good chunk of the material will be essentially its long past copyright. There's also some fair dealing arguments to be made, or fair use in the States. But yeah, that's definitely working with folks, if we are doing co-productions that have experience with archival, I think would be a big focus for us. And we are interested too to look at the pre-immigration side of the archive too. I think would be also interesting to see sort of some context as to, you know, where and why people were coming and what that looked like on this side. So
I think we're already pretty far along in timing-wise, but I think you covered all the grounds, and so thank you so much for
I do
presenting,
follow
Mark.
instructions, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. You would not guess, but back to Berlin and Hamburg. Finally, it's a company that's represented in 2 parts of Germany. I'm inviting Raj to also click our slide. We're a bit DIY today. So it's Raj Hadabaksh, and she's representing Port-au-Prince, and the project is called The Bomb. And it's, as you see, a special one because it's serious, and it's also adventure and thriller, and it's a German production company, obviously, and for 15 years they've been producing and distributing and marketing feature films, documentaries, series, and they're focusing on entertaining and inspiring their audiences. They also did quite a lot of productions with award-winning directors, for example, Edward Berger and Florian Opitz, and also they had a film called Dying, which won a German Film Award and Gold for Best Film, and it was also screened at Berlinale. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, people. Thank you for being here. As she said, I'm Roche. My producing partner, Jan Krüger, can't be here today, so please excuse him. Our miniseries starts in 1972. The Vietnam and Cold War are still going on. Watergate scandal happened, terror attacks at Munich Olympics, and the UN held the first International Environment Conference. Whilst all these things are happening, we travel to a country far away. We travel to Auckland, New Zealand, where we meet David. David is a bankrupt, self-involved businessman from Canada who is not interested in what is going on in the world at all. He's hiding out on his sailing boat called Vega. But desperate for money and eager to impress his young activist girlfriend Anne-Marie, he agrees to charter his boat to a young Canadian organization. His job and mission is to sail into a French military test zone to stop a nuclear bomb test. Where? 5,000 kilometers away on an atoll called Moruroa in French Polynesia. The island, and only 400 kilometers away from Moruroa, is an island called Mangareva, where Vi lives. Vi, an independent, pregnant, indigenous woman who runs her own family-owned bar and has to deal with French military personnel, and she's actually very happy. She loves her island, her indigenous culture, and enjoys the prosperity and progress the French military brings to her island. David and his crew, now arriving at their mission destination, trying to stop the bomb tests in a dangerous game of David against Goliath, whilst Vi has to give birth to a sick baby with skin so thin that when you touch it, it tears. and also one by one her friends and family getting sick. So Y begins to question the safety of these nuclear tests and tries to rally her people against the French military. But she has to face retribution. But refusing to be bullied into silence, she leaves Mangareva and goes to Paris to fight for her people. David, still trying to stop the bombs, is outsmarted by the French military and failing several times on his mission, losing his credibility, the trust of his crew and girlfriend, and is forced to question all his beliefs. And all seems lost until David and Vi's paths cross. And this marks the foundation of Greenpeace International. And David will return with a bigger boat to stop this. Yeah, so the miniseries is high-end miniseries, I have to say, is based on a true story of David McTaggart, who is one of the founders of Greenpeace International. And we are at the moment in development. We have a draft of a treatment from all episodes. And we have also producing partners, which are called Paradise City. They did the movie... Thank you. Call me by your name. Thank you. Right. And we are looking, of course, for a Canadian co-producer. I mean, what is more a Canadian story than Greenpeace? That's obvious, right? And we are looking for good, experienced scriptwriters who can help us to develop the treatment further and also starting to write a first pilot. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Rosh. My first question is, why did you choose to turn it into a series?
It was a feature film right in the beginning, like years ago. No, not years ago, but before. It feels so like that. But we thought there is so much to tell about not only, I mean, obviously Vi is a fictitious person and David McTaggart isn't. But for us it was also important to show the other side of the series, you know, of the people who were actually the victims of all of this and who got, you know, colonized by the French. And we thought like there is so much to tell and cross that we thought a mini-series would be rather the better way to go.
What's the amount of episodes for this mini-series you envision?
Well, as we are in development, I would say between 6 and 8.
6 and 8?
Yeah.
That's a good estimation.
Do you have any funding on the German side?
We don't have funding yet.
Okay. Are you also looking for like TV channels or platforms to get
absolutely
attached?
Streamer.
Or a streamer.
Channels, yeah, all of it.
Okay.
Yeah, because we think it's a very strong story to tell, and it's, as we know, I mean, if we listen to what was the world on in 1972, it's not, you know, it was fucked up as it is today somehow.
Yeah, nuclear safety is an important topic, for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Finally, traveling further again, also on the Canadian side, Montreal now. We're going to ask Joe Balas to come on stage. Here he comes. Well, he's coming to present his project called Mother Mary, and he will also, I think, cordially also click his own slide. I'm going to introduce him, and he'll be also talking about the drama, the project which is drama. While Joe founded a company called Compass Productions based in Montreal in 1997, he works in both fiction and documentary. He's known for a blend of seriousness and humor in his work, and his films were screened at such festivals as TIFF, Tribeca, IDFA, and Torino. So, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Okay, so...
Can I ask you to click the slide on the clicker? So that we click the slide on the clicker. There is a small clicker.
Oh, there's no clicker. There's no,
yeah, just so that we know, see your name, see the project name.
Okay.
technology, I know. Yes!
Here we go. Okay.
Here we go.
Thank you. Okay, so hi everybody. My name is Joe. I'm based in Montreal. I founded Compass Productions about 25 years ago. And we specialize in queer stories and films by and about BIPOC communities and characters. We're currently in post-production on a fiction feature, Calorie, which was shot in India with Anupam Kher. It's actually his 540th film. And we also recently completed a short documentary that won the prize at the Hot Docs Film Festival in Toronto. Today I'm going to talk to you about Mother Mary, the new feature by the legendary and transgressive director, Canadian director Bruce LaBruce. Bruce's films have played in festivals all around the world, including in Venice and at the Berlinale. He's won a number of awards, and this is going to be our third collaboration together. His last feature, for those of you that don't know him, is called The Visitor, which played at the Berlinale, and before that he made Saint Narcisse, another fiction feature which is still playing theatrically around the world. So Mother Mary is at its heart a love story and a movie about family. It's a love story between two misfits from very different backgrounds, brought together by fate, who find in one another the potential to fulfill each other's dreams. The film tells the story of Mary, a trans woman running away from her past, who ends up in a small town where she hopes to restart her life as a photographer. One day, Mary meets Favor, a young woman working in a shoe store. Favor is 19 years old, and she's pregnant by an abusive ex. She finds in Mary someone who does not judge her, and as Favor is trying to determine whether or not she wants to keep her baby. In fact, Mary has always been fascinated by pregnancy and motherhood, and the two of them develop a strong bond around the pregnancy and eventually the birth of the child. They end up moving in together after Favor decides to keep the baby, but Mary unknowingly starts a relationship with Carl, the abusive ex, after she begins photographing him. When Mary realizes who Carl is, it's too late, and she has to find a way to protect both Favor and the baby. The film is a new queer take on teenage pregnancy films, the indie social film, as well as the rom-com. The style and tone of the film is a mix of camp and melodrama, and Mother Mary is loosely inspired by the 1961 film by Tony Richardson, A Taste of Honey, about a teenage girl who becomes pregnant by a young black sailor and then who finds herself alone having to deal with the consequences of raising a biracial child. A more contemporary example, comp film for Mother Mary is Jason Reitman's Juno, and I would say that it's similar in the sense that the comedic tone of the film helps us access the serious nature of what is essentially a social problem film. Mother Mary is designed to explore and illuminate the continually evolving definitions of womanhood, parenthood, relationships, and family. Although the film may take as its main characters two women who don't fit into society, it explores themes of love, female bonding, alienation, and sacrifice through the lens of motherhood, which is something that is universal and which can reach a wide audience. At the same time, our goal is that the film challenges the audience to consider new and alternative definitions of both motherhood and family. Mother Mary is co-written by Bruce and Gabrielle Boulian-Tremblay. Gabrielle is a trans actress and writer from Quebec. She recently won the Dublin Literary Award for her last novel, and she will also be playing the role of Mary in the film. We're currently casting the other roles and have a almost final draft of the script that we can share. We're looking for co-production partners and financiers. We're open to filming parts of the film outside of Canada, and the roles of both Carl and Favor can eventually go to a European actor. We have some development funding in place and a sales agent on board, BFF, out of Belgium. We're also greenlit from Telefilm Canada to move forward once the rest of our financing is in place. As a final note, I'd like to add that we have other projects in development, and I'd be happy to discuss those as well. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe, for joining us. And just a side note, St. Narcisse had its German premiere here at the festival. Bruce was on the Cine Rebels jury last year, so he's a dear friend of our festival. So support this project. And I would love to hear more about, because Bruce's work can be super experimental, and he's gone more into a mainstreamy, slightly more laid-back, calmer way. What can we expect from this one?
Mother Mary is definitely in his more accessible genre of films. Like I said, I did 2 other movies with Bruce. They were in his more sort of experimental, sexually explicit kind of work. But the idea of Mother Mary is while it is transgressive, it's also talking about really important issues, gender identity, trans rights, women's reproductive rights. So it's definitely going to have a Bruce edge to it, if we can call it. But it's a film which we hope can reach a wide audience.
Thank you. And you also mentioned that, of course, you have certain places for the cast that can come from the European countries. What do you have in your vision for maybe potentially crew members or any other positions?
Definitely. We could definitely have a German DOP, for example. Depending on how much of the film is actually shot in Canada, we can also eventually do part of the post-production here. That's something to be discussed and traded with potential partners.
Please do trade with Joe. Thank you so much. And a round of applause, please. There are 2 more projects to go, one from Germany, one from Canada. And then from Germany, we are moving to Hamburg. And it's gonna be Isabella Gnelling and Carly May Borgström. Isabella is the producer and Carly is the director. And they're going to present Hour of the Witch. Please do us the honor by clicking the slide. Wonderful. They're representing Unifilm, and Unifilm is a highly awarded independent production. It's based in Hamburg, and they are famous by their co-productions that premiered at Venice, Berlinale, Cannes, and more festivals. And currently the company also has 9 feature films in development, as well as 4 series. But today we're going to be talking about Hour of the Witch. The floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Carly May Borgström, and I'm a writer-director based in Hamburg, Germany. I recently completed my first feature film, Spirit in the Blood, produced by Unifilm and supported by BKM, Moin Film Funds, Telefilm, and other funds here in Germany and abroad. I've started to develop a new project titled Hour of the Witch. It was inspired by a trip I took to the Harz to get an insert shot of a cave. I was unfamiliar with the area, so I was late locating the mountain, and by the time I had managed to scale it and locate the cave, the sun was setting, and just as I reached, this big storm hit. So there I was, surrounded by howling winds and descending darkness in front of this big, black, ominous cave, and I was terrified, but I was also very inspired. And so I started to research the area, and I discovered that the Brother Grimm collected a lot of their fairy tales from the region, and that great folklore comes from there, especially folklore about witches. And that led me to learning about the witch trials of modern Europe, where Germany was actually the epicenter. And I began to examine this character of the witch, how on a societal level, even the suggestion of her can induce such a state of panic and hysteria and paranoia that it has resulted in the past in torture and mass and the deaths of thousands, the majority of whom were women. And I was very affected when I really got into this history and started to learn about these trials, because the injustices, they were horrific. But it wasn't just the horrific injustice, it was the fact that this history still pertains to this day in how society deals with complicated, unpredictable women, and also how it still tries to control women's bodies. And being affected by this, I started to play around with the idea of connecting this history of the trials with these themes and the folklore, and implementing it all into a kind of modern-day sinister fairy tale. And I came up with a rough storyline. It's centered around this character, Ren. She's a young Canadian girl, and she's on a semester abroad in Germany. And being a shy foreigner, she is relieved when this group of interesting university students take her under their wing and befriend her. She soon learns that they dabble in the occult, though, but she's so happy to have new friends. She barely questions this and even agrees to start partaking in some of their rituals. The group, they're led by this very charismatic, intellectually domineering young man, James, who convinces them to join him on a kind of spiritual quest to the Harz, where he plans to perform a ceremony with this very potent old world hallucinogen, henbane. And so they follow him to this secluded, mountainous, forested area, really off the grid, and they perform this ceremony, and they take the henbane, but in their altered state, something strange occurs that results in a series of seemingly supernatural events. And at first, the group, they're very excited. They think, wow, this ritual had worked, we've made contact with the spirit world, but things take a turn when James becomes increasingly erratic and controlling, particularly towards the women in the group. And when he leads their spiritual exercises into sinister terrain, things really begin to unravel. Ren questions if James is quite himself, if in fact he's becoming dangerous, but she has dark secrets of her own. So when her troubled past starts colliding with her present, she can't tell if she's actually the one who's spiraling out of control, or if she is simply being haunted, being tormented by the ghost of a witch. Because perhaps through their prying into the spirit realm, they've managed to unleash a force of fury, something that cannot be contained, something wicked, something vengeful, something evil. And so Ren, in order to survive, must learn to confront her traumatic past. But James, he will have to run for his life. And so with this storyline, I want to create an elevated psychological horror with paranormal elements that is bone-chilling, something absolutely, fantastically, terrifyingly scary. With locations, if we get to shoot in Canada, I would love to actually get to shoot in the prairies, so Saskatchewan or Alberta. Ideally, it's hard, I know, but and then with Germany, I plan to shoot in Hamburg, of course. It has great areas like the Speicherstadt and Wedel that has this great brick expressionism and this murky waterfronts and dark canals. It's really the place for a sinister fairy tale to begin. And then, of course, as mentioned, it's not fixed, but the Harz, if we can, the Black Forest could substitute as well, but the Harz is great because it's got this mountainous, misty, forested terrain and these medieval towns that are so well preserved. It's honestly the kind of place where one could imagine stumbling across the ghost of a witch just hidden in the hills, waiting for someone to release her. And with that, I thank you for your time and your ears, and here's the brilliant Isabella Gmelling.
Yeah, thank you so much. Now I'm coming with the hard facts. Yeah, I'm Isabella, I'm junior producer, and I'm representing Unifilm and producer Verena Gräfe-Hüft from Hamburg today. And within the last 15 years, we did many international co-productions, many of them highly awarded, for example, with countries like Denmark, Afghanistan, the Netherlands, or Iceland. And yeah, so we are well connected and very experienced in this field. And appropriately, we just came out with a Canadian-German co-production, Kali's coming-of-age thriller, Spirit in the Blood, which will premiere this fall on festivals and in cinemas. So, as you can see, we already worked with Canada and were able to gain some precious insights regarding the funding system, and also now we know how to deal with structural differences between the German and the Canadian market, as well as different ways of working. And building on that experience, we are now aiming to continue our work with Canada, combining again German and Canadian talent. And with Kali, we are very happy to have a Canadian-born director who's based in Germany and was socialized within our European film industry, which means she naturally connects in both territories. And yeah, it's a rather rare combination, I think. And concerning our project, Hour of the Witch, the story and the script are still evolving. We are in a very early stage of development, but yeah, and currently in the middle of funding the project. So since our last movie, Spirit in the Blood, was funded by the local film fund, Moin in Hamburg, and was pretty similar in genre, we really hope that they will support also our second project, and the possible start of production could then be in 2026, I'm sorry.
We invented a time machine.
Yeah, and our estimated budget would be similar to the last project, 2.5 to 3 million euros. And yeah, at the moment we are seeking out opportunities for further collaboration and see if we can take further steps for another German-Canadian project. So basically, we are looking for partners in crime who will support us, like co-producers, commissioning editors, distributors, television broadcasters, etc. So if you're interested, feel free to contact us, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. This was very passionate. I think we all agree. Thank you for that. My question would be about the cast, because I'm very curious. What is your idea? Do you see anyone in particular? Do you have any kind of profile for the girl, for the group? What kind of actors do you envision?
Well, I worked with an actress who I love on my previous feature film, Summer H. Howell. She's brilliant if anybody's looking for a fantastic 19-year-olds to cast in their film. She's honestly it. And we've already started talking about the project, and I'd like to actually develop the character a bit alongside with her. I love my actors, and I like working with them creatively like that. And with the German cast, we don't have anyone fixed yet, but we have a couple of actors in mind.
And then a follow-up about the language of the film.
Yeah, so it will be a mix of German, mainly English, and maybe some Turkish.
Well, I think you covered all the ground. Thank you so much for this passionate pitch. Thank you.
Can I actually this time ask you to click the slide? Okay, we're not going to break it. Laurent, please. We are welcoming Laurent Allaire, who is going to present his project, Denis Saint-Denis. And he's based in Montreal. He is a founder of Chasseur Film and La Distributrice. I'm sorry, my French is not that good. It's one of them is a production company, another one is the distribution company. Also, Laurent is very experienced. Over past 10 years, he produced more than 20 short and feature films, and company's production drive includes a service production component for international films. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Yes, indeed. Yes. All right. So, Chasseur Film, based in Sherbrooke, actually, close from Montreal, Eastern Township, about an hour, 30 minutes. We have a component, just not few minutes, but just to say that we have a service production as well that can welcome foreign project. Co-production is amazing, and we put this up front, but sometimes producer services is good as well, because the exchange rate with Canada is quite excellent for you in Europe, plus the tax credit in Quebec and Canada can go up all the way close to 40% from everything spent in Canada. We did produce a film that is playing here called Island Sunshine. We'll play at 9 tonight if you want to go see it. It gives you actually it's a beautiful film and gives you a good overview of what we can offer in the Eastern Township. If you're looking for a film with a cabin in the woods or a lake or a mountain, please contact me. So, all right. Denis Saint-Denis is a comedy about a woman in her 60s that is about to go into retirement. She was a principal in a primary school. What we try to, the thema of the film, the main thema actually, is about those women that most of their life dedicated themselves to their children, too often their husband, their grandchildren, and when parents get older, they have to taking care of their parents. So all of their life has been quite dedicated to others. And finally, Denise, in our film, wants to live his passion, which is dedicate herself to the Irish jig. So going to Ireland, and for weeks, months, years, she doesn't know yet, but she wants to go by her own and take back control of her life. So Denise, the day she retires, she plans to go home and tell her husband that her plan, which she's got a beautiful relation with her husband, but the fact is that they became more friends than lovers, and at 60 years old, you still want to be a lover. So she wants to go on with life, but her husband organized a trip by surprise in the north of Canada to go see all the bears and the stars, because the bears are quite in the position of danger right now in Canada. So that's a trip that he all organized. So they go there, and the night that he's outside, the husband, looking at the clear sky, taking a breath of fresh air, he got attacked by a bear. So then he get quite, he can't use his arm anymore. So when they go back to home, she has to nurse him. And then her daughter with her twin kids, they got bed bugs, so they have to come and live at the house. And then her father, which is a nudist, loved to be nude everywhere he goes, and he got kicked out from his retirement house as well. So wait, a few pictures that will just give you an overview. Yeah, that's Denise. So the point is, so whatever, long story short, it's like in The Godfather, Marco Colon, when he says, I wanted to get out and they pulled me back in. So Denise wanted to take control of her life, but reality brought her back to being responsible more than ever for the others. So, we believe, the director, the writer, and I, that comedy is often more funny and satisfying by, just putting in the images and situations of life that are more absurd. Life is absurd. So why not put it into the movie? So, yeah, for sure, dialogue, it always works. But just putting situation and the absurdity of life and things, it could be dramatic, it could be comic, sometimes it's both. But it's mostly a film of mise en situation that brings the comedy out of it. We have a green light from Telefilm. We have SODEC almost confirmed. So about 70% of the financing is in place. It's a co-production between Manitoba, which is another province in Canada, and Quebec. We're looking for a partner in Germany or other countries in Europe, because we will be shooting in Ireland or open to other places in Europe for sure, for the part where she finally decides can go to Ireland and do our Irish jig. So it's about 4 to 5 days filming in Europe, We are open for composer as well for the music. We're open for post-production, not the editing, but for sound editing. Everything else in post-production open for Germany. It's a $3.5 Canadian million film, so it's about 2.5 million euros. We would like to close the financial plan by November, December of this year, going into pre-production next January 2025, and then going into filming technically around April, May 2025. The director, Guillaume Lambert, I did 2 films with him. He's a real great director for the actors. You go get the intensity from each actor. We are really believing still that movies are made for audience, so we believe on theater. We kind of hit the box office in this second feature film, which I was really glad of it. We want to do the same here in Europe, looking for sales agent, distributor as well to help for a theater release eventually. And that's it. We want to do a film about a woman in her 60s. We don't see that often. And we believe that we need to talk about that reality as well in a comic way, in a funny way, actually.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Well, it's a very hard position for us to ask because you covered a lot, but still, I will go personal. Yeah. What drove you to this project? I know that you work together, but it's not always given that you will keep on working together.
Yeah, sure. Actually, Paul Ruban, actually his name is Paul Ruban, he's married to a German woman. He's got 2 kids with her, so technically he lives in Munich half of his year. So Paul, through a script consultant, reached me with the script, and when I read the script, wow, it was exactly the same as Guillaume, because Guillaume, if you know, actually, if you go see on my internet site, Chasseur Film, you'll see his 2 previous films, but his first feature film was about a young director who's looking for, you know, at 25 years old, your dream or the realistic. It's a bit of crisis, existential crisis. His second film was about a man, 3 brothers in his 50s, same thing, crisis at 50 years old. What did I become? What I wanted to become. So when I read the script about this woman in her 60s, I mean, wow, it's for Guillaume. So it's the same humor as Guillaume can put up front, and yeah.
Wonderful. You sound very driven.
Yeah, I mean, I believe, you know, and co-production, it's all about that. It's about believing on the project, and I believe in it with the collaborators that I have in this film. So. And again, I think it's a film for a large audience, a wide audience that you know, has to be seen.
Well, we hope that you'll find also driven partners here, and thank you so much.
Cool, thanks.
And this was our last project for today. Just as a recap, you've listened to 9 presentations. We're going to have one-on-one sessions tomorrow. However, our producers are in high demand, so their meetings are almost fully booked. But if you're really in a dear need and you still don't have this booked meeting with anyone that you've just seen today presenting, please approach me and Julia, who's standing there. We might still be able to book that meeting for you, but we'll try our best. Also, if you're a part of the CineCoPro conference, we're still having our schedule going. But if you're not, also please meet the makers. We're still here till Thursday, at least, maybe even Friday. So remember their names. Also remember the names of the projects. If you're not sure, you can find us. And yeah, I think this was it.
Thank you so much for joining us and presenting these diverse and very different projects. And see you again very, very soon.
Good luck with co-productions.